Welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, the podcast that helps aircraft owners and aviation businesses learn and understand the complex world of aviation insurance and risk management. From the basic principles of aviation insurance to risk management techniques and updates on the aviation insurance market, the Aviation Insurance Podcast is your guide to traverse the world of aviation insurance. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome back to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, where we've been learning about the fundamentals of aircraft and various lines of aviation insurance. And recently we've moved into the aviation commercial general liability policy and those similar coverages that are found on many aircraft policies, typically in a broad form endorsement. So we talked about the fact that the aviation CGL has a similar structure of a policy, the DICE declaration page, which has the details of the coverage, then the insuring agreements, which we're going to get into a little more today, the conditions, the exclusions, and then obviously there's definitions and endorsements and other things like that. So today I want to talk about coverage B of the insuring agreements of an aviation CGL policy. Now, this is also a coverage combined or separate that you will find on some of those aircraft policies with broad form endorsements, particularly on turbine aircraft. But this is a kind of a different coverage compared to the rest of them because it's less about bodily injury and property damage and more about damage to someone's reputation. And that is personal and advertising injury. Again, these are separate coverages, but a lot of times and most of the time you will find them combined into one. So what is personal and advertising injury? Obviously, this is going to be as important to an aviation business or a business that's using their aircraft in a way that might put them in this position. So personal injury includes the perils of false arrest, wrongful detention, imprisonment, malicious prosecution, defamation. So that's libel and slander. Libel is something negative you wrote about something, and slander is something negative you said about somebody that was defaming. The injury against a right to privacy, wrongful entry, or eviction. So obviously, operating an aircraft, you detain someone under suspicion, that's there. If you talk poorly about your customer, make up something about them that's not true, or share something in a way you shouldn't, whether written or publicized, written or verbal form, you got some defamation, go after someone maliciously for a crime you feel they committed. I would say false arrest, wrongful detention, pretty good opportunities there. Libel and slander, eviction. Perhaps you're an aviation business who leases hangar space. So anyway, personal and advertising injury can come up. This is the personal injury side. The advertising injury is a little bit different. We're getting the perils of copyright infringement, title or slogan infringement, piracy, so copying information, plagiarism, taking information from a competitor and basically stating it in the same words, unfair competition or deceptive acts. When we teach the Aviation Insurance Association's core principles course, we share a great story. I'll just ask you to Google it. It's called the Malice in Dallas, which took place in March of 1992 as an attempt to settle an advertising injury, basically a slogan infringement issue between Southwest Airlines and Stevens Aviation. So this was an aviation example, and there's some great videos on YouTube and other sites that get into the details of the story, which again is greater in detail than we'll get into today. Or if you're an aviation professional looking to learn more, we do teach the Aviation Insurance Association Core Principles course generally twice a year. And as this is being recorded, one is coming up at the end of February, which it typically does. So check out Aviation Insurance Association, AIAweb.org, for more information on that course. But it's a very good one where we go into these much more in depth. So coverage B is personal and advertising injury of an aviation commercial general liability or CGL policy. This is non-bodily injury or property damage in general. It's damage against reputation or otherwise. Those personal injury perils, false arrest, libel, slander, imprisonment, wrongful detention, eviction. improperly. And then advertising injury, that copyright, title, slogan infringement, things you did in your advertising or your publicity, PR efforts that were found to be liable. You're found to be liable to other parties. So that is coverage B of the aviation commercial general liability policy. Again, you'll find these coverages on some of those aircraft broad form endorsements, especially for business aircraft or commercial aircraft operations that are turbine in nature. And coverage B will have its own set of exclusions from time to time. And so we talk about there being an exclusion sections, but very often the insuring agreements, each one of those coverage, A, B, C, D, and so on, do have their own exclusions. So you got to know where to read your policy to make sure you know what is and isn't covered in your specific policy. This is just an overview of the coverage, and hopefully you learn a little bit more about coverage B today. Well, that's all for this episode. Until next time, we hope that you enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Insurance Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any new episodes, and to help our show have more impact. This episode is brought to you by Aeris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence of aviation insurance. For more information, visit aerisinsurance.com. That is www.aerisinsurance.com. Disclaimer: these episodes are for educational purposes only, and due to the changing regulatory and legal nature of the business, some information may change over time. Having a well-educated and experienced aviation insurance broker on your team is an absolute requirement to success in business and for managing your aircraft and aviation business risks.